Welcome to Destination 101, the official podcast of District 101. I'm your host, Sneha Sharma, and this is a space where we uncover unique stories. Stories that have been shaped within and beyond the world of Toastmasters. Our guest today is someone who once feared the stage and is now absolutely on fire when he's on it. From trembling hands to thunderous applause, Alexandre Matte's journey is a masterclass in transformation. Let me introduce him to you. Alexandre joined Toastmasters back in 2007. Fast forward to 2022, and he stood second in the world, yes, the World Championship of Public Speaking out of a mind-blowing 30,000 contestants. Today, he gives back to the community through participative training sessions and inspiring keynotes. In this episode, titled From Fearing the Stage to Feeling It, we go deep into his personal journey, the turning points, the fears, the moments that shaped him, and what it really takes to fall in love with public speaking. Alexandre, welcome to Destination 101, and we are thrilled to have you here.
Well, thank you so much, Sneha. It's a pleasure and an honor. How deep will we go? I don't know.
Well, Alexandre, first of all, I would just like to confess that I tried that no-bake cake that you mentioned in your winning speech. But honestly, I failed at it miserably. I think I need to listen to that speech again.
You need to have an uncle like mine who will let you know what's wrong with it so you can make it better each time.
Do that.
Hey, the first time I did it, and the first time each of my cousins did it, same thing happened. It was all mushy or not mushy enough. You need to find the right not only the right ingredients, but in the right order and the right proportions so that it works well.
I know. Yeah. Yes. Some of the tips that you gave in the speech, I think that will work for me. Let's try that again. Well, Alexandre, let's start at the beginning. What was the moment that you realized you had a fear of public speaking? And what made you walk into your first Toastmasters meeting back in 2007?
How did I realize that I had a fear? Well, I think we have to go back to before I even knew what public speaking was. When I was 3 years old, I did not speak publicly. I mean, it's normal. You're 3 years old. You're not into public speaking. But you know what, what I mean? Speaking to people that are not in the family, that are not close friends. I was in a preschool, and the teacher contacted my parents and said, we're worried about your son. He is mute. He is not able to speak. And my mother's like, oh, of course he speaks. He speaks all the time. No, I don't think he can speak. So my mother invited the teacher to our house. Now, I don't remember this, but that's what she has told me many times. She said, as soon as the teacher came to our house, I answered the door and I said, hey, how are you? And come see my toys, come see my room. And I was all a chatterbox. So it's like at home, even with people who are not my family, I was okay. But in an outside setting, suddenly I stopped talking. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure where it comes from. But eventually, when I really realized that I had this fear is whenever the figurative spotlight was on me. And I think a lot, if not most humans feel this, like when everybody's looking at you, even if it's just to have you introduce yourself. So, okay, let's go around the table and just say who you are, what school do you go to, and what you're working on. And I'm like, okay, I'm Alexandre. This is my school. And then finally it's my turn. I'm Alexandre. I don't know. I'm sorry. So it's like that throughout my high school years and early adulthood, I suppose. I had this fear. Now I'm going to answer the second question, but then later on I might talk to you about something that happened before Toastmasters. You asked me what made me join a club or visit my first club.
Yes.
So this was the club Voix du Nord in Sudbury in Northern Ontario. And at this time, I had just moved. I had a new job in a new city. I had no family, almost no friends in that city, nothing to do. So I just went to work and went back to my apartment. But one day I received an invitation by email. Come see Toastmasters, what do know what we can do for you. I'm not sure if it said something like speaking club or toasts. I thought, well, that's weird. I'm not sure if I've heard of them before. I've got nothing else to do, so I might as well visit. And it was right beside the workplace. So I went, and that was the beginning. I saw people working on improving their skills or just getting out of their comfort zone. And I thought, this could be useful.
Right. So from your icebreaker to this point, I mean, how different was that experience? I mean, when you gave your icebreaker speech and now, what
Well, the
memories do you
icebreaker.
have of that?
Well, first it took me, I think, 4 visits of the club before really deciding to join. So this was in November of 2007. I had just turned 25 years old, and they encouraged me to do my icebreaker. It probably took me many weeks before finally doing it. And I tried to prepare. I was not able to. I was watching TV the night before and thinking, oh man, I got to work on this. But okay, writing some notes, and then maybe until the hours of the night trying to write notes on this. And so the following day I did my icebreaker, and it was essentially giving all the excuses why I had not had time to prepare my speech. But it was also a way to present myself. That's what we do. We introduce ourselves. So I said, oh, sorry, I didn't have time to prepare a good speech. I was watching Star Trek reruns, and then I was doing this, and I was in my small apartment with the cat, and I'm allergic to cats. So I prepared that speech with my notes, and I was reading my notes on the lectern as I was preparing. I was shaking, and when it was finished, it lasted 9 minutes and 51 seconds.
Oh God.
It's supposed to be 4 to 6
4
minutes,
to
right?
6 minutes, yeah.
And I was worried that I did not have enough things to talk about, but I went on and on. And my evaluator, Richard, he came up, gave me a great evaluation, probably better than I deserved, a better evaluation that I deserved, but it was really encouraging. And the one thing that he asked me to improve was the words of hesitation, the ums and ahs.
Yeah.
He said, I stopped counting after 50.
Oh God.
I have 0.
All right.
Okay, I guess I'm going to work on that.
It's so unbelievable coming from a world champion, you had 50 hours and you took 9 minutes to speak. My God. But still
Yeah, so everybody starts somewhere, and that's where I started that journey in Toastmasters. And I guess it's about 1 year later that Sue encouraged me to join the speech contest, the international speech contest. And I'm a guy who doesn't like competition, confrontation. So I thought, I can't compete. I don't like that. But she made me understand you compete against yourself. You take one speech and you make it as good as you can. And it's the best way. She saw that at that point, after 1 year being a Toastmaster, I was really looking to improve these communication skills. So she said, the speech contest, that's the best thing that you can do.
Very true. So after 1 year, 1 year later itself, you started contesting for the ISC.
Yeah, 2009 was my first time.
Wow, wonderful. Great.
And by that time, I started enjoying being on stage.
I understand, yeah. That was a very long journey. Well, Alexandre, the title of this episode is From Fearing the Stage to Feeling It. Can you describe one turning point where something shifted inside you and when the stage began to feel less like a threat and more like a home?
Right. Well, I think there are 2 chapters in this answer. The second one being in Toastmasters and presenting, myself, presenting personal stories on a stage. So that's with the speech contest. When I started in 2009, my speech at that time was about leaving your comfort zone. So it was all about the previous year that I had gone through Toastmasters. So that's when I probably by the time I made it to the regional, which was the semifinal at that time, I felt great on stage. I was still nervous, but I thought this is something that can be enjoyable, especially when I saw the results of that's later on when people came to see me after and said, "Oh wow, you're really helping me to change my perspective." But even before Toastmasters, there was a chapter 1 of when I started feeling the stage, as you say. And that is when I was not myself on stage. What does that mean? Well, I liked theater. I was an actor in community theater for a few years. And any time that I was on stage in the playing a character, being in the body or the soul of someone else, because I wasn't myself, I wasn't feeling as nervous. Of course, there was still the nerves here and there, but not as much as what is your name and what is your occupation, you know? So playing a character or playing music, also same thing. It's like I was hiding behind my trumpet. So when I was playing jazz or klezmer or classical music on stage, either alone or in a group or orchestra, I was enjoying that moment, enjoying performing on stage for an audience that was enjoying it. So that was before Toastmasters. So what Toastmasters helped me do is enjoy and feel the stage while being myself.
But that theater performance or theater experience, did that help you perform better in Toastmasters, or how was it related?
Yeah, I think any skill that you develop on stage will help you with other skills on other stages. Look, when I'm presenting a story on stage, let's take the example of the World Championship. When I have a dialogue between myself and my uncle, well, I use techniques that I learned on the theater stage to embody my uncle. So I won't make him into a big caricature, but I will use. So here's a trick that I learned from Hélène Dallaire, who at least twice was the director for plays that I played in. And so the trick is to embody a character. Just find one gesture or like a mimic that you can do with your body or with your hands, and just take that, and that transforms your body. So with my uncle, I did. Sometimes I would do this, just change the glasses a little bit, change my face, and now you can't necessarily see it, but I would always put my hands in my pocket. So just, hey, Alexandre, what are you doing with your cake? So I don't exaggerate. I don't think I go too much, but just a little bit, just to transform, to become another character. And then it's almost like, I don't know the science of this, but it's almost like the physiognomy, I don't know, one of those words, of your body allows you to become someone else. It's fascinating.
Yeah, I know, because I find many people who can't change voices in characters. So the body language and the little bit peculiarity that you pick of a character, I think that really works. Because
yeah, and here's where different coaches will say it differently. You don't need to completely change your voice. And in fact, if you do, sometimes it will just be a distraction. So if I want to relate something, a conversation that I had with my daughter, 4 years old, and I saw someone, I don't remember who it was, but on stage, he was doing something like this and saying, "Hey, honey, what do you think of the big tree that's there?" "Oh, I think it's really nice. I would like a tree like that in my house." And it's like, well, okay, I know what you're trying to do. Of course, she has a small voice, but if you do that, then it just feels strange. So my view is, how would you share that conversation that you had with someone else with the person whom you're talking? So if you and I are just having coffee, and I just want to say, "Hey, I had a really funny conversation with my daughter. I said, um, she said a really nice word. And I said, wow, you've got a nice vocabulary. And she said, what does that mean, vocabulary? So I, how higher up was my voice? Maybe 2 or 3 notes? Not much, but it's all in the, it's all in the look, all in the attitude, rather than physically changing the voice.
I know. I tried changing my voice, but then I had to clear my throat, and it looked very awkward on stage when I did that. So I couldn't go back to my original voice. So yeah, that's a good trick. Um, Alexandre, in 2022, you were named the second best speaker in the world, and that's huge. So many of us dream to reach that stage. What part of your personal story did you bring into that speech, and why did you choose that message?
My final speech, entitled Missing Ingredient, is about at the surface, it's about the family recipe handed down by my grandmother, and she got it from her mother and or grandmother, probably. But it's about the importance of traditions. I started working on that story in 2016 or 17. I actually used it in the international speech contest in 2017. But at that time, I was not able to communicate the message that I wanted to communicate about the importance of traditions. And when I presented and I thought, oh, the importance of traditions, then I got some feedback of, well, not all traditions are good. I'm like, I know, but most of them are, maybe, I don't know. And I was not able to make it fit. And at the same time that I was thinking about my family, I was also thinking about the movie. I've got my movie collection here, Fiddler on the Roof, with the big opening number, tradition. And I thought that's really what I want to vehiculate. But in 2017, I was not able. I had not the skill or the ability to incorporate Fiddler on the Roof and my family and my grandmother and say that it's not just about the recipe. So at that time, it came out as, your family is like a cake. Sometimes an ingredient will be missing, and it will never be the same. So spend as much time with your family members when they are still there, so that you can take a bite out of life, which is always sweet. It's nice, but that's not what I wanted to share. So it just stayed there. And then for years, I still use that story in keynotes or in different presentations. But always in the back of my mind, I thought, how can I bring this back to the importance of traditions? And it's in 2022, after I made it through the quarterfinals, so I was going to the semifinals with a completely new speech that year. I was working with a 2009 world champion of public speaking, Mark Hunter, and we had a discussion of what, if I make it through the semifinals, I need a new speech for the final. I need to work on it now. And I said, well, I've got these 5 ideas, my final finalists list. And one of them was that one. And I told him that I really wanted to introduce, I want to make it about tradition and about Fiddler on the Roof, but there's no time. I've got only 7 minutes. And he told me something like, if that's what you want to do, let's work on that. And I said, you think it's possible? Anything is possible. You put the effort in. If that's really what you want to share as your message, let's do that. And it's, it was not just missing skill or ability. It was missing that for me, that was my missing ingredient. Mark Hunter, who was able to help me shape this speech into what I wanted it to be. And as I was thinking not only about my favorite movie in the world, but my favorite family in the world, I wanted to share this message. But there's something that I don't know if I've ever shared this with anyone publicly. I'll share it with just you, okay? The deep the deep motivation for sharing that message was very personal. For me, the yearly gathering with all of my family is essential to keeping the family as a unit. But a few years ago, one of my cousins stopped coming to the yearly gatherings. So as I'm writing it, as I'm preparing it, as I'm rehearsing, and even as I'm delivering on the world stage, I'm just thinking of my cousin, and I hope, man, if he could listen to this and how important it is, maybe he will come back to the family. So sometimes the motivations and what is not said by the speaker is what makes that speech so powerful.
I think you really got to feel that emotion while you're delivering, and for you, it came from your cousin. Yeah.
Yeah. If you watch my final speech, you'll see me choking up and almost not able to finish a sentence.
Yes.
And it's because I'm literally thinking about my cousins who are there and my cousins who are not there.
True. True. Alexandre, many of our listeners are Toastmasters who are still figuring out their voice. What advice would you give to someone who has a unique story like yours, but they feel unsure or underconfident about sharing it?
I hear this often. Sometimes it's like, oh, I don't have anything to share, or I don't think that my story is good enough or worthwhile.
True.
And maybe it's because they compare themselves to other stories that they've heard. And sometimes the stories that we hear are extraordinary. But oftentimes the best speeches and the best stories are those that are ordinary, everyday life. I speak about my family's recipe. Mark Hunter, 2009, his final speech is about internal reflection as he's watching his grandmother cooking in the kitchen. Simple stories, but that they really reach an audience. So it doesn't need to be grandiose. You don't need to go up Mount Kilimanjaro or go around the world to have a great story. Everybody is living or has lived through something positive or negative. Everybody has struggles. So what did you learn from the life that you have lived?
Very true.
I will quote another world champion, another Mark Brown,
Yeah.
1995
Victory
world champion.
Try. Yeah, I remember the message still.
And he says, I'm going to paraphrase, your life, yes, I think I can quote him directly. Your life tells a story, and there's someone out there who needs to hear it. Every time that you share your story with a small or big audience, if you've given enough thought and work into that story, if it's well told, it can change someone's life for the better. And when you realize that, then you can understand the power of storytelling. So I don't know if it's good enough, or I'm uncertain. I don't have the confidence to share my story. Just try it. Try to see what deep thoughts or lessons that you've learned from your life. Share that, and you might be surprised by the results.
Very true. Yes. Alexandre, beyond Toastmasters, how has your growth as a speaker influenced other parts of your life, your career, relationships, your sense of self?
Well, when I started, as you know, I wouldn't have wanted to be on the spotlight, even if it's just a little spotlight, like what's your name and where do you work? At that time, before I joined Toastmasters, I worked at a theater center and then later on at the cultural center. And when my my boss saw that I was in Toastmasters, and I guess he realized, oh, he looks like he's able to speak now. He asked me to represent the organization at an event. I thought, oh, okay, I think I can do that. I'm a little nervous, but I went to represent him and the organization, and it went fine. Joining Toastmasters and practicing speaking in front of a friendly group helped me develop that confidence needed to be able to do it for something outside of Toastmasters. I often repeat what I've heard other people say. We don't join Toastmasters to become better Toastmasters or to be more effective at Toastmasters. We join it so that we can be more effective out there in the real world. So I started enjoying representing my organization. And it wasn't even in my, what do you call it, job description. It wasn't part of my job description. I was the finance director, but I'm going there and representing the organization. My boss was happy to be free to do other things, and I was happy to go present or speak to different people. I made it outside of town and went to big meetings, and I loved the networking aspect. And sometimes I would represent not only the organization, but either the area or the cultural sector in provincial organizations. So just that added confidence that and I guess the skill that I guess goes hand in hand, right? You build your skills, which in turn makes you feel, oh, I can do this. I'm more confident. So those two things made me more effective at my workplace. And then later on, well, when I launched my storytelling career in 2020, well, that was like just the culmination of what I really wanted to do for a living. Like go see people, share stories, be on stage, especially when you can reach those young people in the next generation and share with them how stories can, well, bring them into a different world, a special world. And if they learn something out of it, that's a bonus point. Have I answered your question?
Yes, half of it, because I want to know how it affected your relationships, your personal life as well.
Oh, right. Well, for relationships, I guess I can speak about friendships or colleagueships, if that's a word. I think I'm better able to have better and deeper conversations because I've often got the reflex of asking questions in order to find the story in someone else. I actually have a friend who works at the radio station. He's a great interviewer. He is known throughout the province and probably throughout the country for being a great interviewer. And I admire him for what he's able to do. Every time we speak, I feel like it doesn't feel aggressive, but he is able to find the right question so that it becomes a great conversation. And that's what I'm striving for as well, because I see what he's able to do and how he can forge friendships, relationships, and develop them very quickly. So I'm still working on that because even though I can feel the stage, there's still that little boy inside of me who is shy and will not necessarily approach someone new. So it's still in my nature. So I try to go beyond that and try to create new relationships or build relationships that are existing. You said personally, you said something like self-awareness.
Yeah, your sense of self. Yeah.
Well, technically, I am now better able to understand what I'm doing when I'm doing it. Does that make sense? I guess well, we're online right now. I don't know if you see yourself. I see myself, which is a little weird because when we're in the real world, in person, either one-on-one or a small group or on a big stage, you don't have yourself right there. Imagine if you were in a conversation at a coffee shop or a team meeting, and someone talks to you and you say, yeah, let me get out my mirror. Yes, I think that I agree with you at that point. So you don't look at yourself when you're in the real world, but we do this here, which is a little strange. But that also helps. The advantage of seeing yourself is that you know what you look like when you're speaking.
Yes.
But even before everything went online, I developed that sense, that self-awareness of, okay, what am I doing with my hands now? What am I doing with my feet? Like right now, I realize, I know, and I'm not sure if it's good or not, that I move a lot. I fidget like this. I don't know if it's just in my nature or if I should fight against it. Sometimes it can be distracting, perhaps, for the viewers. It's like, whoa, can you stop moving, please? Just maybe you need a chair or something. But that's me being self-aware. At least I know what I look like.
That's true. That's true. Do you think, Alexandre, playing these leadership roles at the club area, this is also helping people to improve that personal camaraderie, that friendship that people have experienced beyond Toastmasters?
Anytime that we work in a small team to go to a common goal is an opportunity to develop deeper bonds, as long as it's made in a positive way. When I have worked on or led projects that culminated into an event or a special occasion, the links that I had, the bonds that I had with my colleagues could turn into friendships if they were not already there. So yeah, absolutely. And did I say as long as it's made in a positive way? I think I did, because here's something that is strange sometimes in our organization. Even though the club mission includes the words positive and helpful environment, something like that, sometimes we forget that, and we can get into not necessarily shouting match, but in conflicts, and for something that is, when you look at the big picture, it's something that is not important. And
true.
Here's maybe my little advice on this. Take it for what it's worth. If you find yourself in a club meeting or business meeting, in Toastmasters, or you're meeting for creating an event, and you disagree with someone, it's okay to let go. It's okay if you don't win the argument.
Yes.
What's the worst that'll happen? Fewer people will show up. Maybe there will be less decoration at your event. Maybe there will be a little technical problem. I mean, sometimes the worst that can happen is much worse than that, and then maybe you don't give in to the arguments at that point. But most of the time, it's so insignificant that it's okay. Just let it go. We are in Toastmasters to learn by doing and by making mistakes. If someone wants to make a mistake, let them. And who knows, maybe you're wrong about it anyway. So maybe it's better to let them do what they think is best. And that keeps it cordial and positive.
Letting go of the ego, that's imperative in settings. Yeah, very true. Right. Alexandre, you are now a mentor. You train and speak at large events. How do you make your sessions interactive and meaningful, especially for people who think they are not good enough to speak?
Not good enough. I think that anybody who's... Can I finish this sentence without sounding mean? I think so. In context, it works. All right, here goes. I think anybody who says, I am good enough, is not good enough. You might have heard people say, like when you try to recruit them to your club, no, I don't need Toastmasters. I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm fine. I wing it. I'm good. And I'm able to present in front of an audience. I have no problem. That's another way of saying I'm good enough. Those those individuals often are the ones that then I can look at on the stage or whatever they're presenting and think, give me 15 minutes and I can improve your speaking skills. I can double them. There's so much work to do, and there's so much potential here. If you only recognize that you are not the best speaker in the world, and nobody is, by the way, not even those who win the world championship of public speaking. I'm just not saying this because I came in second, but I think any world champion, if you interview them, they will tell you the same thing. They still work on their skill. Craig Valentine, 1999 world champion, he often shares this. He says, right after I got the trophy, I signed up for a public speaking course. He knew it was just the beginning of his journey as a public speaker. So anybody who thinks that they are good enough, they're wrong, and they are missing an opportunity to be much more effective. So when it comes to people who say the opposite of I'm not good enough, maybe the first thing to realize is first, like everybody who wants to improve is on some sort of trajectory. And everybody who says I'm not good enough, that's probably a signal that means, what can I do to improve? So find those workshops and participate actively. Join an advanced club if you haven't already, and find other opportunities outside of Toastmasters to practice and to hone your skills. For me, Toastmasters was a great entryway, a great point of entry to improving my skills. But I've trained outside of Toastmasters with many trainers, and that has been very helpful. So how do I keep it interactive? This is very difficult, especially in a big group, but I try to reach every individual in the room. And, I work with kids and teenagers when I go teach workshops in schools. And that's a big challenge, trying to reach them. And I make an extra effort to go reach those kids or youth who seem to be more reserved, more hesitant to participate. And when I see that, there's always like the 2 or 3 kids who are going to say, yeah, I want to participate as soon as you ask for a volunteer. Yeah, I'm coming on stage. But they're always the majority who stay back. But then when you push a little, they come forward. But there's always 1 or 2 in the class that are sitting down and try not to look at you. Those are the kids that I'm trying to reach. Maybe because I recognize myself in them. And I know that if you just give them the opportunity, they will eventually find their way to their own little stage. Not necessarily theater or music or public speaking, but just being able to talk with ease in front of other people. So those are the people that I try to reach as much as I can.
Makes sense. Alexandre, many mentors in Toastmasters, they talk about the formula for a winning speech, the hero's journey, a callback, circular structure, humor, emotional arc, So do you believe that there is a formula because we see these winning speeches, in the contests, and they usually have all these elements. So, and also, does following such a structure help or limit a speaker's authentic voice? What do you think?
I think asking the question is already answering it. Does using a formula help or hinder the capacity of someone to be authentic? If you use a formula, you're not authentic. That's a simple answer. the elements of storytelling are important in order to make your story impactful and meaningful. So I'm just going to reach over here because you mentioned the hero's journey. That's actually what I used to analyze my own speeches. This is the book by Joseph Campbell, the French translation, Le héros aux mille et un visages, or The Hero with a Thousand Faces. Now, if you're perfectly bilingual, you know that there's one more face in French than in English. It's just how the expression goes. So that's what I used to analyze my own stories and to see are the elements all there? Are they, or is something missing? And that was how I was able to transform my speeches to make them more powerful. Is it a formula? I don't think it was meant as a formula when Joseph Campbell wrote this in the 1940s. It since has, and it's like a model that we use. In fact, in 1986, Christopher Vogler of the Disney company took this work and condensed it into a 5-page memo for the people who wrote movies for Disney to say, okay, if you want a great movie, these are the steps. And it works. Unfortunately, when you follow it too closely of here's the everyday world and the call to adventure, the hesitation to go hesitation to go for the call, hesitation to go to the adventure. Sometimes it can become a little predictable.
Predictable, yeah.
But the best authors and movie writers are able to, while they still use the elements, are able to use a different formula or an original formula of storytelling that still has the essential elements for a great story, but without making it so predictable. So that's why I try to avoid looking at all the steps and looking at them and thinking, wait, now I need the hero to do this and then this and then this. I'd rather just tell a story naturally and truthfully and then analyze it. So this is more of an analysis than a formula. Now, for someone who's just getting started or who wants to develop their storytelling skills, when I share what I've learned, I do show them what you might call a formula, because I take the 12 steps of the hero's journey and I condense it into the 6 most important. I say, if you've got these 6 elements, then you've got a great story. But that's just the starting point. It's like the building blocks to then create your story and to transform it into a speech that is worth telling on a stage. So it's like the opening. It's like the stepping stone to your better speech. And honestly, if you look at the other formulas from other coaches, they will have similar elements. Why? Because it works. The stories that are passed down, what do you call it? Bouche à oreille, word. This is a mouth to ear, or word of mouth, or from generation to generation, and through the centuries and even the millennia. If those stories are still used today, it's because they are powerful. And why are they powerful? Because they make us live these or feel these emotions. And why? Because there's that roller coaster that the main character goes through. And will he or she make it or not? I don't know. And you when you hear a story, you almost become that main character and you hope that it's going to go well. And you are distraught when it doesn't go well, and you are ecstatic when it does go well. So a great story has elements that make you go through emotions. If you use the hero's journey to analyze it, that's one way of doing it. If you use the 9 C's of storytelling from Craig Ballantyne, that's another way of doing it. If you use the story arc from Alex Street in Canada, that's another way of doing it. If you use the tools that are taught in or is that book Storyworthy by Matthew Dix? That's another way of doing it. So I think I can answer this way. Knowing the tools and the elements for a great story is just the beginning. Pick different ways of developing or writing your story from different people and different storytellers that have different styles. And that's the way that you can become authentic, by learning to make those tools your own.
So looking at these tools not as a formula, but as a help, as a guide to make your voice more powerful. That's what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Yes. And like, we have to find the juste milieu, the good middle ground between following the tools and the formulas on one side and speaking naturally as you would with your friends on the other side. Find a way to bridge that gap so that it can be a great story on stage.
Right. Okay. Alexandre, at what point in your speech writing process do you know that, yes, this is the message that I want to convey to my audience? This is the speech I'm taking to the next round. What tells you that, a particular story or message has the power to connect deeply and carry you far in competition?
Well, I guess there's two ways of looking at this. My final story about my family, my cake traditions, when I started sharing it in the rehearsals going up to the finals, it was already connecting, because it's about family, it's about traditions. But my message was not quite landing. And how do I know this? Because I asked one question. By the way, when I've rehearsed, I stopped asking for feedback of what I can do to improve. I had my coach for that. I had my very close circle of friends who could help me with that. What I needed to know from the audience was, are you getting the message that I'm trying to convey? So I just asked one question. What are you getting out of listening to my speech personally? What are you personally getting out of listening to my speech today? That's the most important question that you can ask your audience to know if it's working. So here's the thing, Sneha. When I started asking that question with that speech, I got a majority of the answers that were something like, I'm going to find my mother's recipe and I'm going to do it. Or, oh, before I leave this world, I want to show my daughters and granddaughters how to make my special casserole. It was almost all about the kitchen and the recipes. And I'm like, okay, this is nice, but that's not the message. What's not working that they're not understanding that it's not just about cake, it's about traditions, whether it's baking something or a family gathering, or even something at work to help your employees be a good team. So I just needed to do some tweaks in my words, and it wasn't much. Just put a little less emphasis on the cake and the recipe, put more emphasis on the importance of traditions. And that's when I was able to put in more of the Fiddler on the Roof, by the way, because I saw, okay, I need to put that even more. So I probably changed my introduction to have a better buy-in for the message at the end. So asking that one question can completely transform the way that you're looking at your story, so that you're not just absorbing feedback and thinking, oh, how can I make this speech better so that this audience will like it better? Because that's not I don't think that's the point. Not when you have something to share. The point is, what can I do to make my message come across? And when I made those changes, almost immediately, it was a complete reversal. I got almost no one telling me about recipes, and I started getting messages like, I'm going to start a new tradition at work, or I'm going to call my brothers and sisters and we're going to meet again like we did when we were kids. So that's when I knew that speech was ready for the world stage.
That's a fantastic way of looking at it. I mean, instead of asking for feedback, you directly ask, what are you getting out of the speech? That's
I think it's something we forget in Toastmasters, because both ways, whenever you're presenting, you don't ask that question, or you don't seek the answers of what are they getting. And when you're in the audience, we've been almost conditioned to say, how can that be better? More gestures, more vocal variety. And then, I mean, anybody's competing right now. Like, we've got district champions. We've got about 130 of them in the world, and they're preparing their next speech, and they're getting feedback from multiple audiences, multiple Toastmasters audiences. Stop asking for feedback, how you can make your speech better, because you'll get so much. Man, I remember 2012, I got so much feedback, and some of it was contradictory. Some said, your gestures aren't big enough. Your gestures are too big, or the voice doesn't work. The voice is perfect. I don't like your shoes. Your shoes are perfect. So all of this feedback, contradictory and too much. I was bombarded. It didn't work. It was not effective. Just ask one question. What are you getting out of it?
That's a wonderful way of working on your speech. Great. Alexandre, last question. Here on Destination 101, we ask all our guests, if your journey had a metaphorical destination, what would it be? And what milestone are you most proud of reaching?
Right, metaphorical destination, because I don't want necessarily to go there for real. The milestone, like if we're talking about the Toastmasters journey and the speaking journey, definitely reaching the final stage of the World Championship, but more importantly, making the top 3. As you know, in order to compete to the world stage, you need at least 2 different speeches. So if you make it to the final stage, it means you had one world-class speech at your semifinal. But you're not sure, if you don't make it to the top 3, you're not sure, was that speech good? If you don't get feedback from the audience. Sometimes the favorite speech from the audience will not even make it to the top 3. This happened last year because of a disqualification. But if you do make it to the top 3, it's a recognition by judges from across the world that you deserve to be on the podium. So winning second place is like very close to first place. Do you agree?
Yeah.
So we don't know. One or 2 judges voted differently. Maybe the result would have been different. Who knows? But what I do know is not only the judges recognize the value of my speech, but I got some calls and messages from previous world champions that shared with me how they were personally moved by my speech and how powerful it was and how it was world class. And to me, that was even more important than the trophy. So not only am I recognized by the judges, but by people that I've looked up to for years. And I realized I'm on the, can I say this? I'm on the same level as the world champions. I might not have the title, but I can rub shoulders with these people who have been on the world stage, won the top title, and are going across the country and the world. So that's a big milestone for me. And at this point, sometimes people ask me, well, will you compete again? I don't, maybe in a few years, but I don't have the need for it. I don't see the need. What I wanted to do was share a message on a world stage and have the experience of presenting to thousands of people. And I got that. So that was the milestone that I was working on for years. Winning top 3, making it to the second place, that was the cherry on top. So to me, that was a big milestone. Now you're asking me, what's the next big destination or the metaphorical destination? One of the best things about public speaking is when we realize that it has a positive impact on our audiences. Whether it's at the World Championship or if I'm presenting to a high school, the feedback, or not the feedback, what do you call it? Témoignage. When someone comes over, tells you what, I was saying earlier, what are you getting out of this speech?
Yeah.
It's nice. It's nice to hear something like, "Oh, wow, you're such a great storyteller. You look natural on stage. I was really interested from the beginning to the end." But it's even better, and like 100 times better, when someone says, "Wow, you've changed my life. I feel I can do what I want, do what I need to do. You're changing my perspective." When you hear that sort of feedback, that's really what keeps me going. So to answer your question, what's the metaphorical destination? It's nice to have the trophies. It's nice to have the recognition. It's nice to be told that you're a great storyteller or a great speaker. But that's nothing compared to the impact that I might have on this world by sharing one message at a time to one audience at a time. If we can make the world a better place through our words and how we place those words and how we present them in a certain way on a certain place in a certain platform, if we can change the world and make it a better place, I don't care about the titles.
Wonderful, Alexandre, wonderful. I think that's the destination all of us are vying to reach and trying to reach. Thank you so much for being with us today. Your journey from fear to the finals of the World Championship is just so inspiring, and it's a reminder that stage is not reserved for the fearless, but for the brave. And to all our listeners, if today's episode made you pause, reflect, smile, or even want to pick up a mic again, do share it with a fellow Toastmaster or a friend. And hey, don't forget to subscribe to Destination 101 for more such powerful stories from voices that are shaping Toastmasters and beyond. Until next time, keep speaking, keep growing, and remember, every voice has a destination. Thank you so much.